Our next guest is Anne Gallagher, a mother of five from Longford, whose husband Brendan died in December 2020 during the height of the COVID pandemic. Brendan, who had Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, passed away just 45 minutes after being transferred from a nursing home to Mullingar Hospital. Anne wasn't allowed to be with him in his final moments due to age-related restrictions. She's now part of the People's COVID inquiry, giving voice to the many families left with unanswered questions. Anne, thank you very much for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for hearing us.
From one Longford person to another, I'm actually, well, I was born and lived in Lanesborough in County Longford up till the age of four. So, I mean, do I qualify as a County
Uh,
Longford person?
I think that Lanesborough in Roscommon, isn't that?
Well, I was in I was on the side of the river that was in Longford, and then you've got the Lanesborough Ballyleague
Okay,
side, which is the far side. So, I
we'll,
mean, look, we'll
we'll
just
have you.
have
We'll
to.
have you in Longford. Fine. We'll have you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. It means a lot to me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Let's just start with Brendan. Tell us a little bit about Brendan and
Yeah, Brendan. Of course, I'm going to say. I'm going to say it anyhow. He was a lovely man. He was a
yeah.
really nice, caring, lovely man. He developed Alzheimer's way back in 2010, like coming on slowly and doing different things, like losing his way in a roundabout, not being able to work the lawnmower, different little things, not all the time, but spread out. But
And you started noticing these things
we noticed
and
then, yeah, we noticed then, like my daughter is a nurse, and so
mm,
she noticed, everybody knows, they don't have to be a medical person to know when somebody's repeating themselves constantly. He'd repeat stories all the time. However, that went on for, it was getting harder and harder to
for
sort of
him to
satisfy
manage
him.
it
And
and for you to
yeah,
manage. Well,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I'd imagine when something like this happens to somebody who you see as a strong individual, as I'd imagine it's a shock, and you can't quite believe that it's happening to this person.
yeah. The thing is, he was one of those people who read up about everything. He read books about Alzheimer's and different stages. This is when he was, before he got really that he couldn't read at all,
Mm,
and what had happened at different stages. And he had all this in his mind about the long goodbye at the end. That was exactly the way it was, the long goodbye, because you did have to say goodbye a couple of years before, because you know he knew me most of the time. He knew me when I'd go into the nursing home, and he put his
mm,
hand out like this, so he knew me. Um, but that was, he'd drift in and out of, he'd send me off doing errands, just different. So yeah, it was actually very entertaining. When he sent me delivering messages to different people. So yeah, and he talked about where I came from, and I came from a small place, actually on the side of a hill down in Tipperary, and he remembered that, and he'd say about that and all that. So yeah, he was a lovely person, and
mm,
he took pride and joy in his family.
mm.
Um, and then in 2014, we lost a son. So
Oh
um,
God.
have four living children, and that knocked him for six. That hit
Mm.
home with him.
Well, I'm sorry.
Um,
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, thank you. It's um, and then it just got gradually. We got an appointment then with a consultant down in Mullingar, and they sent back that he was fine. His memory was fine. Of course, he was having a good day then.
Mm.
He wasn't. So yeah, and it went on, and we tried to get an appointment. Then we eventually got an appointment with a consultant in Dublin, lovely man who was very, very good. And he just got worse and worse. We had to bring him into a nursing home. He picked up a chest infection here at home, and we brought him to Mullingar to the hospital. And of course, they did everything they could for him, but and they couldn't they didn't want to send him back home because I had no help here. I was here on my own. And saying it now, he was difficult, because he would go out the door and he'd run, and I'd have to go after him in the car, and he wouldn't get in the car,
Of course, yeah.
and he'd think I was kidnapping him.
Mm.
He phoned the guards one time and said, my wife is kidnapping him, which the guards were so good and so lovely. They has to be. So just things like that got so difficult
Mm.
at the time, so difficult. They kept him in Mullingar for 5 weeks because I couldn't get home help. I actually got 1 hour, 5 mornings a week, 1 hour,
Mm.
and I was put on a waiting list, so I didn't get any home help at all. So eventually, then in 2019, we had to succumb to the nursing home,
Mm.
which was a nursing home here in Longford.
Not too far then. So you're probably thinking, well, this isn't ideal, but it's best all round.
I knew, no, I didn't want him going into a nursing home by any means, and none of the family did. But it was the only option we had to keep him safe himself.
Yeah.
But that's what we thought, to keep him safe himself. Just so yeah, then he went in there in 2019, and I begin every day and I see all these different things in the nursing home. It wasn't great. It wasn't great. But I was able to be in every day and get through everything that's and
So you
then
were you were he was going into this nursing home, wasn't great, wasn't ideal, nobody wanted it.
no,
And then the way it was run, or the facilities, or the staff, or whatever, I mean, it just, it wasn't good, but at least you were able to go in and make sure certain things were done.
yeah,
And I suppose the questions are then, well, what would have happened, or what wouldn't have been done, or what was it like maybe, and you might have noticed this, for people who didn't have a loved one coming in on a daily basis.
I would say it was a horrific experience for
Mm.
them. I'd say it was a horrific experience that I know what wouldn't have been done. Dentures wouldn't have been taken out of a person's mouth and cleaned. Um, Bedclothes wouldn't have been changed. Clothing would have been changed, but it would be somebody else's clothing you'd have. You wouldn't have their own clothing.
Yeah, that's
Things that
common.
are
We've heard that.
important to an individual.
Yeah. Dignity.
Dignity, exactly.
Yeah.
And putting them into bed at night, to just leave him on the side of the bed and he'd roll out. I know they had a crash mattress there as well. They had that there. But at the same time, it's not nice to see your husband rolling out of bed on the floor, falling on the floor. That's not nice, or even to think about that.
Mm.
And whereas it just took another 5, 10 minutes to help him into bed properly. So I'd stayed there until he was in bed at night,
Okay.
about
Yeah.
half 10.
And but obviously you made a decision at some point. You thought, I'm going to have to stay here now until he's tucked up in bed,
Yeah,
because he's falling out of the bed. So that was another thing,
that
another
was
decision.
actually, yeah, yeah.
So as time went on, was it like you were going, I have to stay here for this, I have to make sure this gets done. So like your day in the nursing home got longer every day.
I'll tell you, he again, I'm biased. He was a man. He would a shower every day. He couldn't pass that shower without having a shower. He couldn't. He just had to have his shower. And we brought him out here for 1 or 2 weekends just for a break, before COVID set in really bad. And he passed the bathroom, in he'd go to want to have the shower. He wouldn't. And he was really bad, but he knew the bathroom and he knew around the house.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and he'd only get a shower once a week there.
Mhm.
Just once, and you go in, and at some stage I went in, and his feet would smell. It was just horrible to treat somebody else, and all the other people were there, and there was nobody there with them,
Mhm.
and you'd
You
hear
wonder,
them.
were they even getting a shower once a week, or do you know what I mean?
That was their. I asked about that and said, no, that's what we do. We give them a shower once a week. Shower
Whether
once a week.
the once a week, whether they need it or not.
And they'd have this at night to be in this big sitting room and have this television on with EastEnders blaring, different, it's all soaps. And the care sitting around watching these, sitting on the side of their seats watching these things, these soaps. East Enders, he would throw a hatchet at it.
Mm.
So I took it upon myself. I just asked him one night, I said, could you just, because they were sitting right on, could you move Brendan back from under the television and having this glare and thing? And so they said, okay. The next night I went in and had him sitting with his back to the television at a big long table at the back of the room. And there was a blank wall, and I was facing this blank wall. That's what you get. That's what you
That,
got.
so they did that because you asked them
That's the
to.
way I feel. That hadn't done it before. That's the way I feel. And he had nothing. He was going like this. Because with Alzheimer's, the need to fidget. And even though we bought him one of their fidget blankets, they didn't. He was just going like this.
Just
And then
sitting there facing a wall.
horrible, horrible people. Um,
Why would anyone do that?
the mentality was, do that and she won't bother us again. So,
That's just mean, though, isn't it?
yeah, well, it is mean. There's lots of mean things he did in there. Yeah, it is mean. I went in another night and they were sitting there and they had him, there was two carers on each side of the chair he was in. Like there was carers on each side of the chairs. But he was sitting there and he was going shaking like that. And I knew straight away he was running a temperature. I knew it straight away. So I said to him, "Did you watching the television?" Oh, it did annoy me so much. It did. So I called the nurse that was on, the one nurse that was on. And he came in and started all fussing about it. So I said to him, he needs a doctor, needs an antibiotic straight away. I said, and I know that because I've dealt with that at home. Oh, we can't get a doctor now this hour of the night. She said to me, we just no doctors. Well, what about my doc? My doc is the local, you probably know that.
Mm.
I said, oh, no, he's gone out on another call. Well, I said, right, I'll go up to town and see if I can find a doctor. And I'll wait until I find a doctor. So the next thing she came down with some antibiotics to the room. She said, I'll use these. They're belonging to another patient, but we'll get Brendan through until tomorrow. That's exactly what happened. Just things like that. And like you have to object to it and say, you have to, and to take it out on him.
Yeah, so the feeling was then if you complained about something or
That's
asked for something that you were worried then when you left, what would happen to him?
that's exactly the way I felt. That was exactly the way I felt. And I went down, sent nobody down, they wouldn't lift him up in the bed. The bed was too short. He was a big, long, tall man. And the bed was too short. His feet would be sticking out over the end of the bed. And the back of his ankles, the back of his heel would be on the end of the bed. So I asked him one night to come down and help me lift him up
Up the bed a bit, yeah.
the bed, to get his feet off. So one person came down. One man. And he went, so I couldn't. And I brazenly and boldly took him and lifted him myself.
Yeah,
You know,
to prove a
I came
point.
home that night and I sat and I just got up and there I had herniated myself. I had a hernia. Into hospital. That was on a Friday, Christmas Eve, the day after Christmas Day, the day after Stephen's Day. Into hospital, the surgery on the Sunday morning. That was on a Friday night. Yeah. Sunday morning, that was one person came down. And you could sit there, and he could sit there all the time with his feet hanging over that and maybe get cut or he'd definitely get a sore.
Mm.
Just things like that.
And uncomfortable as well,
Yeah. Nobody ever said to me when I went back in, I couldn't go in to see him, but my sister came up and I went in with her. Nobody ever said to me, "Are you okay? How'd you get on?" Anything like that. Just so That's the kind of people they were.
So I suppose you were probably seen as, so if people,
Nagging. I
yeah,
was,
like a troublesome troublemaker. Like if
yeah,
people,
yeah, yeah,
if
I was.
those who came in and cared about their loved ones and wanted, not that people didn't care about their love, but had the time, or
Yeah,
those patients who had loved ones calling in on them regularly. If you had any complaints, you're a troublemaker, and then you're worried about making a complaint, as I said, because when you're not there, will something happen? And we've heard it, you want the best care, but like I've heard stories of like a breakfast being brought in, the patient being the patient, the person,
resident.
the human, the resident being
Yeah, yeah,
being
yeah,
left asleep, but the breakfast being left beside, and then the curtain's still closed, and then it could be lunchtime by the time they get a visitor, and they haven't eaten breakfast, they haven't been woken up, and they're just there, or they're awake and they're just there in the bed with the curtains closed and not able to feed themselves. I mean, that kind of stuff is it's
like
inhumane, isn't it?
before I was in there and I seen all this happening.
Hmm.
If you told me those things happen today, this day and age, in a nursing home, I wouldn't believe you.
Of course not.
That's the truth. I would find it very hard to believe you.
And even I've noticed from talking to people like yourself, I would have thought before, yeah, I'm sure it happens, but it'd be isolated incidents, or be certain staff members on, or certain, maybe a certain care home, or certain places. This seems to be across the board, Anne.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's not just one. Like the very individual. I haven't. I'll jump on anyhow to the
Yeah,
night
yeah, yeah,
Brendan passed away because
yeah. It's okay.
the night that day I phoned my son. One of the guys were coming down from Dublin. He was working. He was coming down home. And he said he wanted to call in to see his dad. This was the 19th of December.
Mm.
He wanted to call in to his dad to give him his Christmas present. Um, I said, and he said, would you ring and make an appointment for me? I said, fine, yeah, I will. I phoned and about 2 or half 2, and I said, I wanted to make an appointment. And I said, this guy answered the phone. I know the guy, he was a nurse. I said, oh no, we have no slots now until, we've no slots available at the moment. I said, well, when can I make an appointment? Could make my, put him in for tomorrow then. No slots available now for appointment until after Christmas. This was the 19th of December. Now, this was a man I had been visiting every afternoon and every evening, most nights, every afternoon and most nights. And if I didn't go in on a Friday, sometime my son Niall would go in. But he'd go in every Friday. So when I heard this about, I said, I thought to myself, then I got a bit angry or cross or whatever.
Mm.
And I said, look, I said, I'll be at that front door in the morning. This was Sunday morning. And I'll be wanting to see Brendan. And I'm sure I said, if you don't, I'll get the guards. I'm not sure if I said that or not.
I hope you did.
I'm convincing myself I should have said it. But
Yeah, I hope you did.
so I left it at that then. And I said to Gary, we'll go in the morning and see. Sounds fine. So the guys, they went down to my son's house because Mayo were playing and Brendan was from Mayo and he was an avid Mayo fan. And they went down to watch the match, the Mayo match, Mayo in Dublin, I think. And at about 7 o'clock, the three of them came back to the door, and I knew there's something wrong because there's no way would they leave the Mayo match to come and visit me or anything. So they came back and they said, Laura Lodge is after phoning Gary to ask permission to bring Brendan into hospital. I stood there. I said, what? They want to bring Brendan. He's not well, and they want to bring him in. I picked the phone up straight away. I phoned Laura Lodge, and the same person who was speaking with at 2 o'clock that afternoon
Mm.
um, answered the phone. I said, what's going on there? Why are you ringing my son and not ringing me? Well, I didn't want to upset you. And I said, what's going on with Brendan? What happened? Oh, I'm very sorry, he said, but I couldn't rouse Brendan this morning. Saturday morning, he couldn't rouse Brendan this morning. Remember, I was speaking with him at 2 or half 2. We left him to sleep a bit and managed to sit him up at lunchtime and gave him some sips of water, sips of liquid. I said, what do you mean? I said, I was talking to you, too. Oh, I'm very sorry, but the management said they would call me. Yeah, he told me at 2 o'clock management would call me, which his management said they would call me. I said, management, nobody called me. The first I heard of that now is when Gary came in the door. So I left it at the guys. I said, look, park it for now and go away from me. I said, can I go in the ambulance with Brendan? No, can't. So I could be in there in 5 minutes, if they'd let me go. I could be in there in 5 minutes. So the lads got in their cars and their wives or partner or girlfriend, whatever was here at the time, and they went to Mullingar. Well, Gary phoned Mullingar first, said, if I went down, would I be allowed in? And they said no, because of my age, it'd be too dangerous. So they went to Mullingar and they were there about, I think, three-quarters of an hour, half an hour. And they were by his bedside and he passed away. Sepsis. He picked up chest infection. Now, there's a whole lot more there. And it's just come to light to me just now because there's some stuff I got from Laura Lodge that I didn't have the heart to read, which was some of the reports. So I just started reading them there last week, and oh my God, I wish I hadn't. But anyhow, so he passed away at three-quarters of an hour after they got there. They were holding his hand. And that was
And I
the,
mean, it throws up so many questions, doesn't it? Because obviously you'd called to see, and when was the last time you saw him then?
I saw him on Friday,
So that was the 19th. That was a
the 18th.
Saturday, Sunday. So you,
That was the 19th was on Friday. It was on a Saturday, wasn't it?
Saturday, the 19th, and then they
And
were
the
going to
Friday,
go in to see
yeah,
him on the Sunday, was it?
yeah, I wanted to go into. Well, I would have gone in to see him on the Saturday. Only Gary was coming down. He was
Mm,
going in, and I'd go in that night. I'd go in
mm.
Saturday night anyhow. Um,
So he,
so
so there's a lot of, I suppose for me, it's thrown up a lot of questions. So you'd seen him, and then they were saying it's odd that they said there's no visitors until after Christmas,
that was a lie. Of course, that wasn't the truth.
and I wonder why they said that. And then suddenly he rings your son, not you. What, 2 hours later? And suddenly he needs to go into hospital, or was that the next day? I mean,
No, that
that was the
all
same.
happened
Yeah.
between half two and
Oh, yeah, it was the same day. Yeah.
Saturday night. Saturday, that all happened on the Saturday, the 19th of December. And they didn't even ring the hospital. They didn't ring Mullingar to see how he was. They didn't know he had died. And when we went in, then the two sons and myself, we went in and we asked for a meeting with them. And sure, look, at the person in charge didn't even attend the meeting. The person in charge of the dementia unit where Brendan was, when asked why she didn't call us, and it was too hard of a conversation to have. That's what she said. That was her answer. It was too hard of a conversation to have. When we said, did you ring? You never rang the hospital. Oh, we rang. We did ring, but we couldn't wait we didn't have time to wait on the phone for them to answer it. That's what I said. These people are supposed to be caring. We're supposed to be caring
Mm,
for him.
mm.
Said they didn't have time to wait on the phone.
What,
Um,
how would
sorry,
you how would you describe if you were to try and describe the feeling of if you could try and describe the attitude of the people who worked and ran the care home towards the residents, it it seems to me like they're a nuisance.
A nuisance, yeah, but they have to put on the show when somebody's there, and
Mm,
you know it's a show. You know, that night, that Friday, Brendan wasn't well on the Thursday and Friday, and I know that he wasn't well on and that's I'm not sure if it's Thursday or it's either Thursday or Friday. I was visiting him. I think it was Friday. I was just trying to get conversation out of him, and the person in charge of the dementia unit came with him and sat beside him when he was with me. Because
mm.
even though he had dementia, he knew me and he would talk to me. He would, he'd say, yeah, yeah, yeah. And no, I'm all right. I'm all right. That goes. He'd go like that. And I was asking him little quick, like, did you have your dinner? Did you eat all your dinner? What did you have? And she was answering all the questions for him. Do you know that kind of way? She was sitting there and she kept answering the questions for him.
And that was the first time she'd
That was
done
an
that.
indication to me that she didn't want him to say anything.
Yeah.
That's the way I pick it up now.
Well, I mean, yes. Was that the first time she did that, or I presume that
Yeah,
it was very
yeah,
rare? Yeah.
yeah. Well, sometimes she wouldn't come with him all the time.
Hmm.
But they'd have at one stage they had a 16-year-old bringing dementia patients down to visits. 16-year-old little boy, which was absolutely criminal. But anyhow,
Mm.
that's she just didn't want him to say anything to me about his pains because it was discovered that when he went into A&E he was cringing with pain in his tummy when they touched. But now after reading this, I sort of realize what the pain was. It was that he was being dragged down to being walked, as they say, some months earlier, being brought down to the sitting room. I'm finding the thing now. By two carers walking him down, and another resident attacked him and started punching him several times in the stomach. So that built up. That's what they wrote
This.
down there.
So you didn't know about this incident.
Not a tinge did I have. I didn't. I sat here and I did cry that day when I read that. I said, "My God, if I could get into him and belt him in the stomach and let them see what it's like." This is an old 74-year-old man,
It's shocking, isn't
you
it?
know, and there was two. Could they not stop him from punch? Did they just let him stand there and be punched a few times, several times? Now that's you're the first person I said that to now, and that's
Gosh.
okay. I'm going to say it. I'm going to make it known.
Mm.
You
Well,
know,
it's there in the report. But say even if it happened quickly and they couldn't stop the other patient or whatever, they what was the care? What was the aftercare? What did they do?
they checked him, and what else did they checked and gave him fluids. They didn't call a doctor. Checked him and they gave him fluids.
Oh my God.
And like I kept our own GP, because
Mm.
he was good, and Brendan knew him quite well, and he knew Brendan.
Yeah.
I kept him, and they could have easily called a doctor. They could have easily called him, and he was only across the road. Well, he wasn't across; he was only 2 minutes down the road. You know,
Because what you'd want to happen is for you to be called and told this
yeah, of
happened,
course.
because things happen. Um, if you're out in the, if you're outside, if I was out, I could trip up and fall down on the road, but the hope is that you'd get seen. If you banged your head, you'd go to the doctor,
Yeah,
there'd be an
yeah,
x-ray. That's all
yeah.
you're not asking for things to be
Yeah.
perfect. You're just asking,
Yeah. He did have a few falls because when I'd been there at night, he just begged me to have this shower. So one night I said, "Come on, hop into the." I put him in the wheelchair, into the shower, and just give me a shower down. And when I was getting him from the shower chair to the wheelchair, he slipped down on the floor and he just slid down. He didn't fall, he didn't hurt himself. He slid down on the floor on his butt, and that was fine. That wasn't a fall to me. That was just
Yeah, yeah, things happen.
a slide.
Yeah.
But he had fallen several times in there, and he got I've seen some pictures of his injuries, and they didn't get a doctor. They don't. Just they think they're doing right when they tell you he fell. They think that's okay. And I had gone in sometimes, and yeah, he was okay. He was sitting at the table eating, having his meal. But in the long term, like that stomach thing now, I'd say that what was affected him, what the doctors in A&E picked up. And by the way, A&E were fantastic down there to the lads and everything that night. And that's one thing that you can be really grateful for, is that A&E or the personnel down there were great. But they did pick up that he has this stomach, tenderness all over his tummy. That's where it came from, because he never had any tummy problems.
And that led to the sepsis then. That was
Oh
slowly.
yeah, well, he had a chest infection, not treated,
Okay.
and
Okay.
then he developed sepsis. Uh, and the person in charge with that was, I don't know whether I should mention a name or not.
Maybe don't, just in case, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's the same person. I don't know if you've ever heard of that lady in the nursing home over in Lanesborough, who
Mm.
her people were in England, in the UK, and she developed a very severe bed sore.
Oh, yes.
Did you? Well, that nurse
Mm.
was the person in charge of Laurel Lodge. The same situation. That lady died from sepsis because she didn't just develop a bed sore overnight. She didn't. Um, that same person, same scenario. And I wrote in to them, and he sent back a letter to me saying that he did the right thing where Brendan was concerned. In the event that he should have to deal with such a thing again, he would not change his.
What he did. So he did the right thing. He wouldn't do
He did
anything
the
differently
yes,
if
he did the right thing, and oh, he would not adapt his approach to him or any other resident in similar situation. Well, he didn't, and that lady ended up. So yeah,
so this happened before, and then he didn't adapt his approach, and then it happened again.
he didn't adapt his approach because what they said was that lady. This is just hearsay now. What I seen, what I read. That lady had a bed sore, a
Mm.
very severe bed, which she died from.
Mm.
Like you don't get a bed sore overnight or over a week. You don't get it that severe over a week
Yeah, it's a long time.
unless you're left there. Not this poor lady was 94 years old.
Mm.
Imagine going to at the end of her life having to suffer that. It's not such a.
Um, and so, I mean, you weren't with him then, having been with him every day,
That's
visiting him every day, and then thankfully your son and
yeah,
whoever else was
yeah.
there, uh, and it was good that they were there with them. But I mean, that must have been to
It
have.
was yeah.
It must have been such a shock though, like
It was
and kind of just so sudden in the end. I mean, you talked about the long goodbye and having that time, and there was a lot of fun and yeah, frustration and difficult times. But you were sort of must have been thinking, well, this is like, uh, the nursing home situation wasn't great, stressful, but I doubt you're expecting him to be gone from you.
no, at the time he was talking to Anne about the long goodbye, this was, I didn't think the long goodbye had ever come, to be quite honest with
Of
you.
course, yeah,
I thought I'd be able to just be there you know, but like at the times that we're in it, really, you can't, it's nobody's fault that I wasn't there. It's COVID's fault,
yeah, yeah, of
really and truly. Because if it wasn't for COVID, I definitely would be there. I would be in the ambulance with him if it wasn't,
course.
so I don't know how to feel about that. I would have loved to be there. I wouldn't have loved to be there, but I would have wanted to be there. And I know he would have wanted me to be there. I couldn't. It wasn't possible.
It's a
Yes.
pity maybe when you called at 2 or 2:30 that they didn't say maybe come in.
You see, they should have,
Yeah.
because you would have been allowed to visit if somebody was seriously ill.
Do you think they hadn't gotten him up out of bed yet?
I, I think. Oh, I don't think they had, because I got we asked for a report then of that day, and
Yeah.
sent us out a report that oh, he got up and had his breakfast and walked up to the dining room, and he had a cup of soup at mid morning, and he had his dinner, and he had dinner and a dessert, and all this kind of rubbish. He didn't have any of that because there was nothing in his stomach, anyhow.
But also the man that you called, he said they couldn't get him up.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's conflicting reports.
And like I go by the my doc report.
Yeah.
The my doc report said there was nothing. There was just fluid in his stomach. I think there was just fluid, and his tummy was very tender. And previous 2 days he had been vomiting. I'm just going by the my doc report now. They never
Yeah.
said anything like that to me. That's why she came down with him. You see that previous day.
So
So
she didn't want him telling you that he'd been vomiting or
yeah, he mightn't have been able. I'd have to ask him, is there anything wrong? Because I'd know to look at him that, he's not happy with something. But she never gave me a chance because she
yeah.
is. But anyhow, so it's just a minefield. That's why, this inquiry that's coming up, the
Mm.
COVID inquiry. How can they just have shut people like myself now and like other people in our group? How can they just shut us out? Should we have more information about nursing homes than
Yeah, so who are they
that?
going to talk to? They're going to talk to the people who ran the nursing homes,
Yeah, and they don't have
staff.
to talk to them. They don't have to talk to them.
Yeah, they don't have to talk. So who's doing the inquiry and who are they going to talk to?
Like, are they going to talk to them, tell them all these things that we have to, all these things that happened in the, during the time our loved ones were there? They're going to tell them all that. They're not going
No.
to. They're going to say Hicko went around and everybody seemed very happy. Dementia people don't know, or even elderly people. They'd be afraid to say, they're not happy. You know, I'd nearly be afraid to say it myself now at this stage, quite honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah,
you. I mean, it seems so. Like, why are the government? Why is the Minister for Health? Why are these people so um hell bent on it not being transparent, not including the families, not. I
yeah,
know I spoke to Magella from Care Champions before, and I know families looking for, and I've mentioned this before, families looking for information about their loved ones who died during COVID in nursing homes. It was described as a witch hunt.
you can't get information from private nursing homes. You can't get it.
So you got that? You got a report, or you
See,
got
no,
some?
I got a report on myself where my name was mentioned.
Oh, you were able to get
I get
a
about
data
myself, but everything, most stuff was blacked out,
redacted. Yeah.
redacted. Yeah, so that's how I got that. And I'd say if they'd seen that, they'd have redacted that as well.
So
The,
there was stuff that wasn't redacted. You think they would have? So you went down the GDPR route.
I think they'd have crossed that out if they had seen that report, that entry into that.
You
I'd say they'd
probably
have crossed
shouldn't be
that
seeing that. Yeah.
because like it's shocking they'll have it there now. Brendan was being assisted to the sitting room by two carers when a fellow resident suddenly repeatedly punched him in the stomach. Brendan was visibly shaken, but able to proceed walking to the sitting room, and staff following and staff reassured him, thought it was fine, don't worry about it. and offered him liquid. That's what to reassure him.
And that was how long? And then before you never heard about that, you didn't know it happened, and they just
No,
they noticed it in the hospital, obviously.
yeah. Well, they picked up in the hospital that his tummy, and I'm saying that was from, but that was back 6 months prior,
Mm,
But it's still, I'd say, it was bruising internal bruising and that, which,
mm.
and I would have been in there that night. I would have been in there that night.
Yeah,
And
because
then
that
it
would have
was,
affected his ability to fight off. That would have weakened him. Having those bruises for so long, unattended
yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah.
untreated, that would have weakened him.
Oh,
So, an infection that
yeah,
ordinarily
yeah, yeah, yeah,
wouldn't have caused him as much problems then ultimately did and caused him to die. And he
yeah,
obviously didn't have the
yeah,
strength to fight it then because of other injuries.
yeah. He was prone to chest infection, but he was always, you'd always have an antibiotic there ready for him.
Mm,
He never, he'd always get an antibiotic straight away, and he'd come through it, he'd be fine. But they just left him. They didn't call a doctor to him on Saturday. They didn't call a doctor until it was too late. Um, they didn't call the ambulance until the my doc came and
mm.
ordered the ambulance. It was just pure. I don't know if they knew. Maybe they didn't know. But this
Some,
person in charge was a qualified nurse. He was the person in charge. I know now that he's a nurse, just a
mm,
nurse.
yeah,
I don't mean just a nurse now. I mean
yeah,
he's not in charge.
yeah.
And and he's the one investigating that lady in the nursing home, Nurse Common. I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Tell me about the People's COVID inquiry.
Oh, the people. We did a video for that. For that, I don't know
Mm.
if you've seen it or not. It's
Well,
on
well,
the.
just I want to tell other people about it and where they can go and see it. And so, is
Uh,
this to do with the with Care Champions?
yes, it is.
Mm. So it'll be
On
on their
the
social media, on their Facebook
yes,
page, I
and
presume.
they have a website, Care Champions.
Yeah. Mm.
Uh,
And it's
but that,
testament to
yeah,
you guys talking about your experience
mm,
of what happened during
yeah,
COVID. Okay, and
yeah,
people can
yeah.
go and watch all of that.
Yes,
Mm.
if it's on the website. Loads of people did little videos,
Mm.
and there was a professional recorder there and all that, and he did that. Um, yeah, and I don't know. I think it would be a good thing if the government excuse for a COVID inquiry, they take a look at that, but they
Mm.
won't. They won't. They won't even. What I
They're
would like
they're
to do myself,
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I would like to go into the Dáil and shout just tell him that story about Brendan.
Mm.
And I would say he's not the only one, because he's not. And there's people worse. There's worse situations. And believe me, there's worse situations. I don't know if you have managed to see the videos, but there are things worse than that.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people
Mm,
I've got in touch with through Care Champions, and I've heard some
mm,
horrific stories.
yeah, yeah,
And that's to me, it's like you can see now, having spoken to all these people, hearing stories, I know now these weren't isolated incidents. This was some kind of decision made. Certainly during COVID, there was definitely a decision made to just maybe leave a certain section of society and not look after them the
yeah,
way the rest like make there was some sort of decision made to split society into two groups, and that's to me that seems like a very callous. I think even if that was a decision was made in good faith at the time or something, if people are over a certain age or I wouldn't have made that decision. I don't think it's the gift of anybody to decide who gets to live and who gets to die. I don't think that's right. But if they made a decision in good faith, what we need now is transparency. We need honesty. We need people to come out and say, these were decisions made. We got it wrong. people should step down, people should step aside, reparations should be made to families, people should be given answers. What we don't want is trauma heaped upon trauma, where loved ones have died, information wasn't freely given, there wasn't transparency. You're looking at, reports and finding out things, you're talking, a few years later. And now you're almost it's a re-traumatizing, and why are we doing it? Was bad enough if we made a terrible decision to do this in the first place, but could we not make more terrible decisions to heap trauma upon those people already traumatized, who are being gaslit and made to feel like there's something wrong with them, and being driven demented themselves, just looking for information about what happened to their loved ones around that time, and how, and also how are care homes. I mean, we take the word out of care homes. We take the word care and the word home out of care homes and call them facilities of, I don't know, we need a different word for them. How are they allowed to keep doing what is essentially, how are we allowing them to keep abusing residents? Because that's what it boils down to. And how are we allowing this to keep happening? Not only do we not have transparency, we don't have information, we don't know the truth. They don't want families speaking out, and now so that it seems like we're more interested in protecting the interests of the owners of care homes over our own citizens, and
You
that to
mentioned
me is bonkers.
you mentioned the owners of care homes.
Hmm.
Like they're the people who were there for money, just money. It wasn't. They didn't care about residents or anything. Um, they paid themselves dividends, 300,000 a year.
Yeah.
They paid, and in the particular care home now that I have experience of, or I've been, there was a husband and wife for the owners,
Yeah.
and the wife already owns a nursing home in Limerick as well, as far as I know. Well, I
Right.
do know. I've got to. Um, they paid themselves both dividends for this local nursing home, this nursing home, and they also got a payment of 600 and odd euro from 600 odd thousand
Hmm.
euro government funding. That was not put into patient care or to resident care. Well, not.
Hmm.
I was
You
there
didn't
at the
see,
time.
you didn't see an increase in staff numbers. You didn't see an increase
There
because
was
I presume
no.
I presume the payment of 600,000 was for care homes to, you know, get on extra staff, get extra equipment. Uh, so maybe the inquiry needs to be about what happened to that money, and maybe the government were supporting care homes, but that support wasn't, and that financial support wasn't used in the right way. And this is why we need an inquiry that is transparent and public, properly public, to get to the bottom of these things. I mean, because you don't want to, if it's not the owner's fault, we want to blame them. If it's not the government's fault, we want to blame them. But if they don't give us any answers, then you're left making, you're just trying to put the pieces together yourself and coming up with your own answers, and that's what will happen.
Like that government funding now was very public.
Hmm.
It was in the it was in the
It was made known, yeah. It was
newsletter and all
news.
that. It was
Yeah,
public. It
yeah,
was a funding. It was for the residents to make life a
care.
bit easier for the
Yeah,
residents,
yeah.
make a bit more comfort, seeing what they're going through, the COVID and all that. But I didn't see one. That's what they probably paid their own dividends from.
Mm. So there was 600,000 given government funding, and that was, and at the same time they got dividends of 300,000.
They paid themselves dividends. They did, yeah, yeah, definitely. Um,
I mean, you wonder if someone's paying themselves dividends and not putting money into the care.
See, there, I have it there now. On this, the
So
dividends. So there,
yeah,
and
you
this
have
is
you have
profits.
the books.
Profits for 2020 was 382,223. For 21, profits was 587,824. For 22, it was 678,008. And that was for the local.
Did you see when you were there and while Brendan was there? Did you see repairs? Like, did you see, was the place painted? Was there any,
No,
upgrades was new chairs? Um,
no, they couldn't even supply a decent bed for Brendan.
no new beds,
No, they said
no
they said I
investment
could.
into.
They said I could buy a bed for him if I wanted to.
Okay.
They're
And
generous.
were you paying for this?
But they're paying for. They were being paid over €1,000 a week for after Brendan. And having said that, I think it's in July. I haven't got the document right under my hand now. It was in July that I got a letter out from the person in charge requesting that I sign. They wanted to increase their fees to, I'm not sure what the figure is now, but I had to sign that I agreed from to increase their fees to, I don't know, that was in July. I sign it and send it back and keep a copy for yourself.
And that was in July.
That was in July 2019. Yeah.
So,
So they applied to increase their fees in July 2019. Like I was a fair deal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So where's
Thing.
that? So
But
when was the,
they were still getting paid on Brendan's behalf,
yeah,
and they were getting his pension as well. They were getting paid. The fair deal was getting. Laura Lodge was getting paid that full amount.
through the fair deal scheme. So what
Yeah,
does can you just explain to anybody who doesn't understand what the fair deal scheme
the
is?
fair deal scheme is a scheme, a government scheme, or a HSE scheme. I'm not sure. I think it's a government scheme that if somebody has to go into a nursing home, be it a private nursing home or a public, I think, a public or private,
Mm,
but Laurel Lodge is a private nursing home. I shouldn't have knocked that out. Laurel Lodge.
yeah.
Yeah. This is a private nursing home. So they do an assessment, and as they were taking Brendan from Mullingar straight into Longford, I didn't want him to go, so they organised this fair deal. Because if they had given me that money, I could have had Brendan cared for very comfortably here in his own home. I'm here on my own.
If you had 1,000 a week,
If I had that money,
mm,
he could have been so comfortable here, and he'd be in his own home, and it wouldn't even take that much. It wouldn't even take that much because these two sons are around, and three sons are around. So but no, they had to take him off into a nursing home anyhow, and that's the fair deal scheme. The government pay a certain amount, and then they take your pension or whatever,
and
pay the rest.
does that come out of your does that come out of the family home, or where does that money come from then? If they
Uh,
want, if like
no,
it's
no
just from the government.
the fair deal doesn't. Well, I hope it I don't think it does.
Mm.
I haven't looked for it. I don't know. It doesn't know. Um, but Brendan's um, old age pension was
Was
taken
taken.
every
They took
week.
the old age pension. Yeah.
Yeah, so that. But that meant that they got nursing home got over €1,000 a week
Yeah.
paid in there for that care, which wasn't care at all. Yeah.
Well, look, Jesus, Anna, like all I can do is apologize. Is there anything else you want to mention before we
Um,
wrap it up? I mean, what would you like to see? You'd like to see a proper public inquiry.
I would like to see that they allow people who know, who've seen what happens, who know what happened during COVID, who can give more information than any doctor sitting on a.
people who weren't there every
People on
day
the ground, people
in
on the
the
ground.
homes, yeah, and
Can
not
can you?
staff.
No, well, I presume now if they were going to speak with staff, they'd have to take an oath and tell the truth because that's all anybody wants is the truth.
Well,
That's
I
all I
mean,
want.
well, I mean, I would say it's an official document, the document where you read that the morning he ended up in hospital, he got up that morning, had breakfast, had soup later, all that was that's an official document as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's a lesson. That's
Direct contradiction to the man on the phone who said, "Oh, we weren't able to
yeah,
get him
yeah,
up
yeah, yeah, yeah,
on the same day."
yeah. But it's in opposite to what the doctors discovered as well. You
Mm.
know, these are very clever people and they know what they're doing. These people,
So
the doctors.
you'd like for the government to include in their inquiry, not behind closed doors, in public, and
No,
talk to the
yeah,
families
no.
of the loved ones who
It
were
cannot be
lost during
behind
COVID.
closed. It cannot be behind closed doors because it's not an inquiry. Then it's not.
Mm.
They haven't taken everything into account. I mean, how are they going to know what I'm after saying now? How are they going to know all that? And there was a lot of wrongdoing there, but other people have a lot more wrongdoing.
Yeah, yeah.
Believe me,
Mm.
So yeah, that's what I would like to see. I'd like to,
Um, Great. You'd like to see
yes,
the
of course, yeah.
families involved. And what about so for families who are maybe still grieving and unsure whether to speak out, would you encourage them to do so? Has this helped
So,
you in your experience to try and
uh,
speak out?
yeah, yeah. Mind you, I definitely would encourage it, but I can't. I can't because I have been rather quiet for the past year because I had my own problems
Yeah, yeah.
and health problems and that. But I'm just getting back in now, and I'm glad and thank you for listening to me.
Well,
And yes, I would
thank you for
encourage. Of
sharing.
course, I would encourage them to speak out. How is anybody going to know what they went through if they don't speak out?
Yeah.
If people don't speak up, how are we going to know?
Mm. And of course, what we always understand that anyone who speaks out, there are days, months, weeks where you're happy to speak out, and then there's times where you can't because you have your own things going on, and that happens, and that's
Yeah,
life. And
yeah,
no one expects it. If someone wants
yeah,
to speak out and then not say anything for a while, that's human, and it's hard. It's hard because it's
it
part
is.
of the grieving
It is.
process.
It is. It is. That's life. Life's not easy. Life is good days and bad days. It's not easy, but it is.
No, no, it's not easy, and
Yeah.
appreciate you speaking out, and I hope
Yeah.
your own health problems are improving,
And I know it
and
is. No, I'm fine now. I wasn't looking for sympathy, but I'm fine now.
oh
I
no, I
get
know you weren't looking for
better.
sympathy. I know,
And
I'm
thanks. Yeah.
sure you're well looked after.
Um,
And thank you very much for talking to